When you have a team that buys into what the manager wants and needs, everything good can happen.
And as John Schneider rather colorfully said, it's go time for the Blue Jays.
So, manage the team 2022, 2023, both successful seasons, playoffs, and then 2024 hits. I'm sure it had like a totally different feel, the season, the way it ended. And then the offseason comes, and then you kind of decompress. What kind of came to mind at the end of last year when you were able to sit back, look at kind of all of the moving parts? What did you learn? What came to mind?
It kind of started during the season, to be honest with you. Like middle of September, you start thinking about, okay, what do we need to do different? What do we need to do better from a managing, coaching, player, everyone standpoint? In years past, you don't really get that. You know, the season's over, not the way you want it to be over, so it takes a little longer to get into that frame of mind, if you will. So it was tough because it's easy to point at injuries and underperformance and bad luck, and I think within that, yes, that was true. But there's definitely things that we probably deviated from compared to 22 and 23 in 24. So right, wrong, or indifferent, you start learning from it. And I think the biggest thing is you reflect on what you can do from this seat and then what you can ask the players to do accordingly.
How about this news? Reports that the offseason's biggest free agent, Juan Soto, is nearing a decision.
Breaking news, Juan Soto is joining the New York Mets.
So let's just address the elephant in the room. After swinging and missing on the big fish again, is there any way to know that this year will be different than last year?
Talked about the offseason and how different it was. Was it more stressful knowing you were connected to Soto again after losing Ohtani the year before and being maybe possibly a little bit let down? Was it kind of a roller coaster in terms of emotions, or did you just kind of flatten out?
I think that gets blown out of proportion, to be honest with you, between the last two off seasons, because you're talking about two really good players that over the course of the last 10 years or so, you could say one of the best in the game, right? So I think that gets blown out of proportion a little bit. Knowing the front office and knowing Ross, I knew and we knew that we were going to do everything we could to make us better. So, you know, it wasn't disappointing. I wasn't holding my breath on any one of those big name guys.
If you were to kind of fill in the blank on a statement like, if we do blank, we will be successful. Is it hit, pitch, field? Obviously it's all of them, but like,
right.
Is there something that you can point to right now and say, if we do this, we're going to have a successful season?
Yeah, I always say stay healthy. I think every manager says that. I think if we score, we're going to be successful. And I think if we score early in games, we will be very successful with our pitching and our defense.
Vlad Guerrero Jr., this is his age 26 season. He is poised to have a monster year.
Bo Bichette is the best hitter on this team, and when he's healthy, he can do a lot of damage.
We talked a lot about Bichette and Guerrero on the offense, but you know what? The rest of this Blue Jays lineup, they have to contribute as well.
You know, you look at Bo, and Bo being kind of back to what he's looked like his whole career. Vlad picking up where he left off, having a legit home run threat in the middle in Tony, a different skill set in Andres, Kirky looking like Kirky. It's exciting.
You mentioned the two youngsters that you've had throughout the whole season. Impending free agents, lots and lots of talk about them. Have you kind of let your brain go to, man, I've known these kids from day one. This could potentially be our last year together?
A little bit, maybe, just because you understand the business part of it, right? So I think they've done a phenomenal job of focusing on this year, and I would be a fool to focus on anything but this year. You get to this point, the players understand, people in the building understand that the business part of it is the business part of it, you know. But I love the way that they're talking. I love the way that they're talking about the Toronto Blue Jays 2025. What are we going to do to win every single night? And if you do that, it leads to good things, right? It leads to winning. And it probably leads to the guys doing well. So we're going to continue to focus on that. They're going to continue to focus on that. And, you know, I just feel very fortunate that they're here.
Something you learned in 24 through that failure that you know is going to benefit the Toronto Blue Jays in 25?
We almost had to do a 180 from how we were built at the start of the year to where we were at the trade deadline and after. So I think of the guys that transitioned, and they know what it's like. They know what failure is like at the major league level. They couldn't say that a year ago. The second thing, which is close to the first, is the game will not wait for you. And I think that a lot of our players realize that, whether it was through injury or performance, they realize that the game is not stopping for you. And you got to come in here every single day and assume nothing. And don't assume that you're just going to have a rebound year. You got to figure out a way to do it. And we've been very competitive for the past 5 years. So getting that taken away from a lot of guys, myself included, it makes you realize that the time is right now to really hit the ground running.
Love that.
Thanks, Caleb.